All right, are we on? Two waiting. That's sweet. Or maybe that's me. There we go. All right. Hello, everyone. This is my first MAD PD experience. So I'm going to talk about CoSpaces EDU today. And I have two guests with me. Would you all like to introduce yourselves?
I will. I'm Jen Gilbert, and I am a K-12 librarian at Eminence Independent Schools in Kentucky.
Hi, I'm Nancy Jo Lambert, and I am a high school librarian at Reedy High School in Frisco, Texas. I just finished my year as the chair of the Texas Association of School Librarians, which is the largest division of the Texas Library Association. I'm also on the ISTE Librarians Professional Learning Network leadership team. And I also serve as the president of the Texas Computer Education Association, or TCEA's Librarian Special Interest Group, among other things.
Holy cow. That's a lot. I don't think I introduced myself yet.
No, you didn't.
I'm James Allen. I am also a school librarian at Eminence Independent Schools in Kentucky. And I'm mostly going to share my screen today to show you all how CoSpaces works. If I can find a little share screen button. All right. I know Jen has used CoSpaces a little bit, correct?
Yes. Not a lot, though. Mainly just pointing kids in the right direction. I kind of know what it can do, and I've seen kids do amazing stuff. They have played a lot more than me, though.
Nancy Jo, have you used it at all?
I've only used it a little bit. I actually have a lot of questions about it, so I'm actually excited to learn from you today on this.
All right. So CoSpaces is a way to let your kids create virtual reality worlds on their computer, or there's also an iPad or Android app that you can use. Works pretty well. It's really just like the computer version pretty much. I mostly use this with elementary, but I've also used it with middle and high school too. So once we get into it, you'll see how many features are in there. So it's easy enough for definitely second or third graders to use, but also, especially with the code part, you can do some crazy complicated things with it. So it just depends on how involved you want to get. Once you've created your worlds, you can share them kind of just like you do a Google Slides link, and it becomes a presentation. So it's just another cool digital storytelling option to put in your toolbox of possibilities for your kids to use. So you can project it just on your screen. You can also view it in virtual reality goggles like Google Cardboard, or another cool thing you can do. I don't know if there's a picture on this screen. I thought I'd pull it up. I don't see one though. That's all right. You can actually project your creation in augmented reality. So whatever you create inside of CoSpaces will look like it's on top of your table or your desk or wherever you decide to project it. So the kids really like that too. And there is a Merge Cube add-on, which is kind of an additional feature, but you can also use that to project your worlds and have multiple sides and angles and cool stuff like that. So I'm already logged on. This is kind of what the teacher view looks like. I've got a few classes in here. You can create a class, and it works kind of like every other online platform. You get a code to give your kids so they can join. Our kids just log on with their Google for EDU accounts, and they type that code in, and they're automatically joined to the class. And there is a free version which kind of reduces the features a little bit. I think it gives you maybe 30 seats for your class. So it depends on what kind of teaching you're doing, but you could definitely use it. You could try that out before you invest in the full version, which we have. We have 400 seats. We have about 800 kids K through 12. So I'm not using it with exactly everyone, but we have it as an option. When you get the pro version, it kind of just opens up some more features that you can use. And obviously you can add more classes and more assignments and those kinds of things. And so before I keep going, CoSpaces is not, it's kind of like a sandbox, just like Minecraft is, Bloxels is, like a lot of other creation tools. You really could apply it to any content area. So I'm using it from the school library perspective, just kind of introducing it to our kids so it becomes an option that they can use in their other classes, whether it's high schoolers using it in social studies or a fifth grader kind of just showing off something they've learned recently. Instead of doing a diorama or a poster board, they can go in CoSpaces and create kind of a story to demonstrate that. So I'm going to go to My Spaces. I'm going to create a new space. Jen and Nancy Joe, you all jump in anytime you want if you have questions or I need to clarify something. When you first create a new scene, you can create a 3D environment, which is what we're going to do, or you can also upload your own 360 photos and build your world around that. So that part is kind of cool, but we're going to stick with 3D environment because it just gives you a little bit more.
James, with the 360, if you're uploading your own 360 image,
Yes,
it's not exactly 3D, right? Like, how does that change? I don't know that I've seen one with a 360 image. Have I?
I've shown you one, but it might have been a while. It's still a 360 image, like you spin around, like you've seen before, like Street View.
Right.
But when you put objects in, it kind of looks like they're sitting in your 360 scene.
But the objects you put in are three-dimensional, even though your scene really isn't.
They're three-dimensional, but your camera becomes fixed. So you can't walk around a 360 image, right? Because it's just that fixed image.
Right.
So that's kind of the drawback of doing the 360 image. You can't really walk around like you do the 3D environment.
Okay.
But you can still put all of the objects in and do all the coding and that kind of stuff. You can do mouse overs and.
So it's more to create a background than.
Yeah, it becomes a stage of your CoSpaces world that you're creating.
Okay. So like you wouldn't necessarily want to put like a 360 image of like a historical place or something in there and then expect to be able to navigate around it.
No, it would just be kind of for viewing. It would be where you put all of your other objects.
Okay.
But I've just opened up a new 360 world and it opens up to this blank grid. And you see all that's in there right now is this video camera. And that is what your viewer is going to see when you click on play up in the top right, or you share this link out to somebody. So that camera is important. And when I introduce this to the kids, I kind of tell them, you could basically create an entire movie or, entire video inside of here where because you can program the camera to move and rotate, and you can program your scene to go on to the next scene. So it really becomes kind of a virtual movie set. I'm going to click on environment down at the bottom first because it's a little easier to see things than on this blank grid. Click on edit. You get a few options, but not too many, which is good for the kids. Otherwise, they would be on this screen for too long. But you have like desert, underwater, above the water, some grassy field. There's some mountains. And there's a daytime city and nighttime city. And this moon environment is pretty new also. I'm going to click on this grassy field here. And that loads. And now you can see there's our blank environment. And for some of these, you can actually change the mood a little bit. We can kind of make it a night scene, which is cool in your storytelling, right? And then usually if we get to it, I do the sound last. You can upload, they keep adding features. You can actually upload 3D objects that you create in other software like Tinkercad. You could create an STL and then upload it into CoSpaces to use it. You can upload sounds, you can upload pictures. But I'm mostly going to share what's in the library today. So the library button is down here at the bottom. And it's arranged into these categories: characters, animals, housing, nature, transportation, just kind of generic items. And then building blocks, which is cool because this is very much like Tinkercad and some other software our kids are used to using. I'm just going to drag this cuboid in here thing, and you can see it looks a lot like other software you use, either SketchUp or Tinkercad or other 3D kind of creation tools. And I tell the kids, if there's something not in the library that they want, they can always build it with these building blocks. So not too long ago, I had a kid who wanted to make a campfire, and he said, there's no campfire in there. So he took rocks out of the nature section and put them in a ring, and then he used cylinders down here to make logs and just turn them brown. And then he used some tetrahedrons and pyramids and colored those orange and yellow to make the flames. So using these basic building blocks, he created the object that he needed in his world. So I thought that was kind of cool. And your regular generic keyboard shortcuts work. So I can just do Control-C and Control-V and copy this object after I've made it. And then I can edit that. And now that quickly, I have like this kind of bench right here. If you double click, you can change the material, texture, and the color. And you notice right now they're not grouped together, but I can group them together. I can either drag a box around them using the right click, or I can select one object, hold down Shift, click, select the next one, and double click again, and I have this group option. So if I click that, it groups those two objects together, and now I can move my bench around. All right, so I think next, let's put a character in. I'm going to use Regular Man number 2. I've not used him yet. Let's put him in. So it's just drag and drop. He's in there. When you click, you have these 4 options. So I have this drag to lift button right here, so I can lift him up in the air if I wanted to like put him on top of this bench right here. You also have a scale tool, so I can make them bigger and smaller. And then the rotate tool, you can always kind of use this blue ring to rotate them 360 degrees, but these give you the other axes, so you can rotate them this way or rotate them that way. And that kind of works for all of your objects, whether it's a character or not. And
does SketchUp default to a certain scale, James?
Yeah, like if I'm gonna
sorry.
I think
I'm thinking SketchUp.
I might have messed him up already again. Let's see. No, he's back to the normal size. So if we go to like transportation and I drag a car in, he's kind of the right scale for the car and the bike.
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering, like, if they are making their own objects too, like, is there a scale that it is defaulting to if you don't change it?
No, I guess not. I mean, you're limited by the, I don't know if you can see it on the screen or not, but it's, you kind of see that, that square there. That's your stage. So I have had kids, like, they think it's cool to make giant people, but when you blow them up too large, you're kind of limited in what you can do because you've used up all of your stage area. That's a good question, though. I've not had that come up too much. I think most kids bring the people in first, so they kind of build the other stuff around that scale.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm going to delete my car. I think I'll leave the bike for now. All right, so this is a digital storytelling tool. So let me show you this first before I get too far into like some of the options and coding things that we can do. If you go up in the top left, right underneath the home button, you can see this interface kind of looks familiar like Keynote or Slides. I've got scenes. I can duplicate this scene, and it will actually take everything in my scene, all the characters that I pulled in, and copy them to another scene. Or I can start fresh. Is it right here? I don't usually start fresh. Where's the new scene button? I can name it. That's always helpful. Where's, oh, it's down here at the bottom. Sorry, I was looking up at the top. New scene. So I can put that in and it would just be an entirely blank canvas again. So depending on what your kids, what story they're telling, you know, they might go from this grassy area and then like go to a completely new environment that they set up in the next scene. But that's kind of where the storytelling part comes in. You can program your co-spaces to go through those automatically when certain things get clicked, or it can be more like a regular slideshow where at the bottom they click, you know, it says scene 1 of 6, and you just click a little right arrow to go to the next scene. So I'm going to double click on our guy, and up at the top, we can change his name. I tell the kids to do this, especially once they start having a few characters in there, just to help them keep them straight. And we can actually give him a speech bubble or a thought bubble right here without doing any kind of code. How's it going? And now you see a little speech bubble pop up. I'm actually going to get rid of that for now. We'll come back to physics. Transform, you can do very specific, like type the number in type transformations instead of just dragging. And then material, we have a few options, which is cool. We can change his hair color, his shirt color, his skin color. Let's do something great. No, we'll leave his hair alone, I guess. You can change the opacity of that object, whether it's see-through. There he is. Also, without coding, we can change his animation. So we have reactions, which are kind of like mostly like emotional type things. He doesn't really move around much when we do these. Let's do confused. You can kind of see it changes the way he looks right there. And then we have postures. So he can be kneeling, lying, neutral, riding a bike. We have a bike right here, so let's do that one. But right now he is in the middle of the air, which looks kind of goofy, but we can move him over here and he kind of magically fits that bike right there. So anytime we're doing this, and I tell the kids often, you can preview what this looks like to your viewers. So if you look right now, I've put all these objects behind the camera. So you'll see the problem when I click on play. We do not see them. And right now the camera is a walking camera, so I can use the WASD keys and the mouse to like look around just like I would in Minecraft. And then here are my people and objects. So to fix that, I'll go back and I'm going to drag the camera on this side. So theoretically, we should see everything when we click on play. There we go. This is something the kids forget too until they start clicking around a little bit more. Some objects, and I haven't tried every animal. Every animal I've tried has their own animations too. So I can have this horse eating or rearing back or galloping, trotting. And things like, I think I'll pull it in just so you can see how it works. I think it's items, maybe. Maybe not. Maybe it's housing. Just kidding. You can see they're in categories down here: bathroom, kitchen. There we go. There's the door. I'm going to pull it in. It has an animation too. It can be open or closed. And that becomes important because anything that's animated, we can program that inside of the CoBlocks coding space, which I'm going to show you in a minute. So if there's a time in your story when the door needs to open, you can code it to do that at a certain time. Let's make our guy riding a horse. Posture. There's also actions. Rowing a boat, pointing. Quite a few options. I want postures though. Riding a horse. And I'm going to have to lift them up in the air a little bit. You have to provide your own sound effects. And right now you see how he's kind of snapping to the grid. You can turn off snapping up at the top. And now I should be able to, yeah, move him a little bit more precisely. Now he's on the horse. Now, when I click on play, you'll see the problem though. The horse is going to rear back, but the regular guy does not. So any object, it can be characters or shapes that you build, you can attach to other objects in your CoSpaces scene. So I'm going to double click the guy and click attach, and you'll notice, I'm actually going to move him back a little bit. These little spheres pop up on top of the object. So there's 2 on the bike. There's 3 on the horse, and then there's some on the bench that I created. So I'm going to click this one on the horse's back, and it kind of just automatically sucks him onto the horse. And now when I click on play, you can see that looks a lot better, right? He's staying attached to the horse and not falling off. That way, if I want to program this horse to move in a minute, I don't have to separately program the guy to move. I can just program one, and he will kind of follow with the horse just like he is in the animation. I'm doing tons of talking. You all have questions?
I'm just getting kind of excited because I do a lot of things where I try to give kids a chance to program, which you haven't done yet. And I do a lot of things to give kids different ways to 3D design as well and model. And I feel like this is such an obvious marriage of the two. I like it.
Nancy Joe, you have any questions? All right. While we're talking about coding, let's go ahead and look at that. This is something I have to, actually, before we go to coding, when I introduce this to the kids, usually, I meant to show you all this at the beginning. Usually I don't spend a ton of time. I kind of give them an overview of the tools, probably even quicker than I've done here on this video, and then just kind of let them loose and let them play with it for a while before I ask them to create anything specific, kind of get some of the goofiness out of the way that they can create giant, whatever they create, they make them giant. But sometimes I also switch that up with the tutorials that CoSpaces has already created. I like them because they're broken up into individual tools and tasks. You don't have to watch just one big giant long video. Sometimes I'll show just 2 or 3 of these to get the kids introduced to that tool. So they have them all here in a list. It looks like there's about 39 of them. And some will apply more depending on what you're doing with the kids. There's also a selection of lesson plans on their site to help get you started, depending on what content area you're teaching. And then here's kind of a downloadable PDF that shows you all of this stuff that we're talking about, if you like that kind of thing. All right, I'm going to click on code. It's up in the top right next to the play button. And you have the option to do real script where you like type all this out and have it to do the code that way. But I'm usually mostly using the code blocks. And they kind of did have an agreement with Blockly, I think, but now they've created their own kind of visual programming language here that looks very similar to what the kids are used to when they do use other websites, hour of code type stuff where they drag the code in. So they're broken up into these categories: transform, actions, events, control, operators, items, data, functions, and physics. Usually, especially with like 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, I'm sticking with those first 4. So transformations, actions, events, and control. Just with those, you can tell a pretty elaborate story. So I'm going to, and when play is clicked, that's when I click the play button. That's kind of like hitting your run button in your program. Let's just do a simple move code. And I'm going to make the mistake that all of my kids make just to demonstrate it to you all, because this is the question I have to answer over and over and over again. You notice where it says no items, I can't choose any of my objects. And the kids forget to do this all the time. So before you can code an object, you have to double click it. Click on code. I double clicked on the horse, and then say use in code blocks. If you do not do that, then it's not available in the code section for you to choose as an option. Now you can see I have horse in there. I can tell it to move forward so many meters. Let's do 2 meters in 2 seconds. And now if we click on play, we can do this right here from this code screen. You can also do code full screen if it's easier to see. Sometimes, depending on the device, it's easier to see what you're doing if you maximize that. Click on play. And you can see the horse is still rearing because that's the animation, but he moved forward 2 meters. And you can click this little refresh button to start back at the beginning to see it again. And then if you don't want to do that, you can you just click it and drag that over here to the left and the trash can pops up. Actions, we can set the animation of the horse to whatever we want. And then
that override, like, I guess I'm confused since you didn't use the code and you chose the what was that, posture?
yeah, the rearing for the horse.
Here, like, does something, or will he still be doing the rearing at the same time he's eating?
Let's click on play. So he almost reared and then he went straight to eating. I don't know if you saw it. Let me click it again. No, I think he just went straight to eating. So that overrode what I put in here. And then what I teach the kids pretty quickly when they're telling a story is, let's see, where is it? It might be under control. There's a wait button, right? So we can tell it to wait. Say we want him to eat for 2 seconds, and then we could go up here and then have him galloping. So you saw him eating, and then he's going to keep doing this one because I didn't really tell it when to stop. This is getting kind of complicated quickly, but you can do control. You can have it repeat forever like a loop. You can tell it how many times you want it to go. You can also do run parallel, which is kind of important, especially if you want 2 characters to do different things at the same time. Otherwise, it's going to go through the list and, in that order that you put it in. So I could have another action down here. Like, let's double click on see if this works. We'll do transform, move. We could put all of this right here. Say move our group forward 4 meters. Let's click on play. There we go. So it's running both of those at the same time. Started them both at the same time. Another one, a lot of times what I'll have them start out with is just have 2 characters in the world and have them just have a conversation. So it'll mostly be using this right here. This say something for so many seconds, and then have the other character say it. So you can kind of see like the speech bubbles going back and forth. And then once they have that figured out, it kind of helps them realize how all these other ones work. So transformation gets kind of complicated depending on what you're going to do. You can scale things. You can stop the transition. You can set a position so something just jumps to a new space. Rotation, scale. And then one that's kind of cool and makes it easier for the kids to move an object. Let's do the bike. Say using code blocks. I'm going to close the code for just a second. In the library, under special, we have the camera. So you can add another camera and switch between them. Or you can use these paths. So let's use a round path. There we go. Can drag it in here. And then if you notice, it's got little handles so you can edit that path too. We can actually raise those up. Let me spread them out a little bit more. You can see it kind of goes underground there for a little bit. Now that path is also an object. So in order to use that in code, I also have to double click it. Say using code blocks. Now I can go back to my code and let's just get rid of all this for now. Go to transform and say move bicycle on the round path in so many seconds. Make that a little bit longer. 10 seconds. And now when we hit play, you see the bicycle following that path.
Can you make paths invisible?
Awesome question, because it looks not super pretty in your world, right?
Right.
If we double click it, you can go to material. You can either turn it down here all the way to 0. You can make it a different color. You can actually make it look like a road. If we do, you can uncheck show and play mode.
Oh, okay.
Or you can change the width of it so that it actually looks like something. And then, I've never clicked on curved. Let's see what that does. I'm going to uncheck that. So when I click play, it should not show up. There we go.
That's awesome.
So I think, does it just keep going? No, it just does it one time unless you tell it. So you could put that inside of a loop or tell it how many times you want it to have happen. But you got a picture using that path with not just a bike, right? You could make it be a person walking. It could be an animal walking. It could be a plane flying. It could be, anytime you want some kind of a specific movement on a path without having to code each individual turn manually, which can get kind of time consuming depending on what you want it to do. Any questions about that?
No, this is just more complex than I realized.
Yeah, it does lots of stuff. Speaking of complexity, I'm going to show you physics really fast. I'm going to try not to take up the entire hour here, but by default, objects do not have any physics applied to them. So that means if we're in this world, let me click play. I should be able to walk. No, it actually stops me from walking through it, and I can stand on it. But I can't walk through the horse. But if this horse, if we program it to move, it would not really interact with that bench unless we told it to have physics on those items. So if you double click, actually, I'm going to make some new objects. Delete those folks. I'm going to make a scale, a very simple scale. And then pull another one out there. We'll make this kind of long, a little flatter. And then I'm going to put it on top of our first one right there. And I'm going to double click those and say physics, yes, physics, yes. And then let's bring some animals in. I guess let's do a goat and a unicorn. So I'm going to turn physics on for those. And you can see I'm going kind of fast, but when I click this, I have precise collision, which, to be honest, I don't actually know what it means. I'm assuming it means more precise collision. Set static will keep that object where it is, no matter what, even though it has physics turned on. I don't know if you all have used Minecraft, but if you place a block kind of up in the air, it doesn't just magically fall most of the time unless it's sand or something like that. You can change the mass of the object, you can change how bouncy it is, and you can change friction that's involved when it interacts with the world. So I'm going to turn on physics here. And right now, they have the same mass. So I'm going to put the goat over here. And put the unicorn over here. I'm going to rotate him around. Now, if we hit play, let's just experiment and see what happens. Ah, the goat was heavier. So I'm going to make this static. You saw how that kind of fell over. Physics, set static. And actually, what if we move the goat more like right in the middle of where the unicorn is? Ooh, better, right? If we were trying to balance them. I'm going to change the mass of this guy to, let's say, he's a super heavy goat. Play. Whoa. So as soon as I do this demonstration, the kids immediately start catapulting human beings across the world, but that's okay. They're learning.
So it's funny because our kids at school, they do our physics classes do a catapult unit.
Yeah.
And they create actual catapults, but I'm thinking this would be really cool for them to create virtual catapults too.
For sure.
Yeah, they could prototype any kind of stuff in here. Now, here's the crazy part. By adding physics, you're almost making CodeSpaces almost like a video game platform, right? Because you could have, especially when you add the code in, you can make it where when you do this happens, and then different things are going to interact differently with the world based on the physics that you have set up. So, I mean, you can see how it can get super complex really quickly. In the gallery, you can check that out on your own on the website. You can see just some crazy things that people have built. So it's not going to do obviously every type of physics that's out there, and it's kind of a simplified version, but you could definitely just kind of experiment and mess around with things to see how it changes what happens. So if we make this like that, I just kind of want to see what happens. Same thing. Can I hit the ground faster though? And you notice that unicorn is going to land exactly in the same spot every time. So it's not random. The action that it has is exactly based on the physics that you have set up. What am I leaving out? We talked about upload. You can do a web search. I don't love this feature because it's not really, I think it's just using a Google image search. Oh no, it says powered by Bing. But you can pull in that image and it becomes flat. But you can also upload your own images. So that can be pretty powerful too, especially if you take this image, use it as the backdrop for your story, or you animate like hotspots that when you click on it, it gives you information. If we go to library and building, you can see there's a text panel here. So I can program right on this text panel, have it pop up different times when I want it to. It could pop up as you're moving through the world. It just kind of the possibilities are endless here. So let me see, items, you can search, upload, and we talked about environment. Let's go ahead and duplicate the scene so you can see what that looks like. I'm going to duplicate this one. So now 2 is highlighted, so I'm on scene 2. So if I move things and go back to scene 1, you can see how it puts those back where they were. And then let me show you what that looks like when you hit play. So I'm on scene 1 of 2. If I click the little right arrow at the bottom, I go to scene 2. I don't think it copies the code. We should try that out. I can't remember which way it does. So let's quickly code this goat to do something. Code. Let's do. We'll have him do a cool dance. And then I'm going to actually delete this scene and duplicate it again. All right, play. He's doing it to cool dance. You can see he has his glasses on down there, even though it's sideways. All right, let's click next. Ah, it does copy the code, right? Good to know. So any code you put in that first scene and then duplicate, it's going to carry over here. So that could be easier for your kids because they can just go into the code they've already done and just make adjustments to it if they need to, or delete it, drag it over like that. Show you the sharing real quickly. So right now it's private. If I click on share now, I can share unlisted or publish to the gallery. Usually I use this one right here. I can name it. I can allow others to remix it. Share unlisted. And now I've got a link. So let's just open this up, and this is what you don't have to have a CoSpaces account to interact with this link. So if I click on it, go, it's going to take me straight to what it would look like if I hit that run button. Well, actually it takes me here, then I have to hit play. So pretty easy to share. I've done this fairly recently. You can actually create an assignment. Let me do it real quickly so I can show you what it looks like. If I go to, no, I won't do that. I don't want to pop up people's names, but you can create an assignment and actually assign students to a group, and they can interact with the space together simultaneously, just like they do on a Google Doc or Google Slides. So if one student changes something, it changes on both screens kind of at the same time. It works really well. My spaces. Using the app, you can present this in augmented reality like I talked about at the beginning. So I don't have that pulled up on my screen, but you would basically go to your app, pull up the space, hit play, and then it gives you the option to either do it in VR or AR. And then just like Google Expeditions and other AR apps, you kind of just scan the environment a little bit and then click a spot and it appears on your screen. This is a lot of talking. Any questions to my two people who thankfully joined me today?
No, I don't have questions. I'm excited. I think I've learned a lot. This was a good thing for me to spin.
Can you talk about how much CoSpaces the paid version costs, especially for all the teacher functions and stuff?
I can, but I don't know off the top of my head. I'm just going to go to their website. Does that count? Pricing. So basic is free. You get 30 seats. And let's look at the differences. So you get fewer objects in the library, which is not fun because it actually lets you see all the objects. You just can't use them all, so the kids will be like, I want to use that. And you can't import as many external files like audio and images. You're only allowed to have 2 spaces. And then you still can have as many scenes as you want in each space, so that's good. You can have 1 class, 1 assignment. That will be kind of limiting if you want to use this often. But I'm assuming your kids could still use free play as long as they don't have more than 2 spaces. And then the paid version gets you code with JavaScript. The physics, which we just went over quite a bit, that's not available in the free version. Remixing, I've not tried that yet. And then the seats you're paying for per year. So the Merge Cube is an extra add-on. So even if you get the paid version, I think it's like another $1.50 or something like that to use the Merge Cube. And then looks like $75 for 5 seats, $120 for 15 seats. I don't know the exact cost. I feel like it was, I don't even want to guess what it was when we bought our 400 seats, but could definitely get a quote from them. See if they have there's a good picture of the kind of what the AR looks like in action. You're holding your device and then you see it pop up. Merge Cube. Other questions?
None.
None. I haven't experimented with it a ton, but I'm excited about the new import and STL feature. I remember back in the day, I say back in the day, a year or two ago, whenever CoSpaces was fairly new, I even tweeted at them and said, it would be cool if we could import our own STLs, and now you can. Nancy Joe, do you have anything else? I'm guessing that's a no.
No, I'm good.
All right. So thank you all for tuning in. I hope you've had a good Mad PD day. This was fun. See you all later.